Raina Troy Hotline.
Alicia, Michael, what's going on?
We know you have takes. We have takes.
I'm actually surprised that your Rant Line, Rave Line, whatever, isn't completely full.
Why can't we just win a game?
Can I blame Michael Castillo for this?
Can I blame Bob Connolly for this?
Could I put on a zebra shirt and just go out there?
Scratch, claw, up against the wall.
Can't explain it what I'm feeling right now, guys.
I can't believe it.
Let's open up that Rave Line! Woohoo! Oh, I can't believe USC is 7-5 again. Oh no!
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Rant Line Radio, episode 582, coming to you on Wednesday, December 18th. We're going to talk about the latest in USC football news, including more transfers, more transfers. A new USC offensive line coach, question mark. We're going to talk about that and so much more, including the new commitments of a USC legacy that we'll discuss in a little bit. As always, you can follow us on social media at Rant of Troy, email address rantoftroy@fanside.com, phone number 818-643-7227, Second What's Brewing Show. I'm your host, Mike Garcia, joined along with no co-host today because she doesn't want to do the intro with me, Alicia Deratola.
Hello, everybody. I was.
What are you doing?
Dropping
the ball.
I was grabbing a quote about some news that we have to discuss.
Wow.
I was just trying to grab a thing. So
unbelievable. Just not prepared.
It's one of those days, Michael.
It is one of those days. It's Wednesday. Big day of the television. Survivor finale tonight. The Ultimatum finale dropped at midnight. I may or may not have already watched that in the wee hours of the morning. New jet lag episode. But of course, all the drama is at USC. So let's get to it. Let's start with coaching updates. USC has lost its offensive line coach, Josh Henson. He is going to Purdue to be with the Boilermakers. According to Football Scoop, the offseason exodus continues for USC, and new Purdue coach Barry Odom, might be a familiar name, is set to reunite with an old colleague. Multiple sources tell Football Scoop that Josh Henson is departing as his role as offensive coordinator and offensive line coach on Lincoln Riley's USC staff to take over the offensive reins for Odom at Purdue. I believe they worked together at Mizzou, right?
Yes, I believe that's where the connection comes from. It makes sense that Josh Henson would be looking for an offensive coordinator opportunity where he gets to call plays, and Barry Odom gives him that opportunity. So I think that this one, not that it wasn't a surprise, but it also kind of makes sense considering the vibes around everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to say that vibes would be better at Purdue than SC, but no, I get you. If this is the route that he wants to go for his career, more power to you. Sure, go do your thing. At the same time, from the SC perspective, Josh Henson was one of the guys that people wanted his head on a spike at the beginning of the season. I think the offensive line concerns changed in how they were vocalized as the season went on. The Michigan game, everything was dire. I think the Michigan game was the only game in which SC was truly blown off of the line and looked like they were outmanned, man for man. But since then, SC's issues weren't necessarily their lack of ability to do anything on the offensive line. It's not like they were a great offensive line, but they certainly weren't the liability that they were at the beginning of the season as the season went on. But they weren't the strength that they were under McGuire.
Well, and that's
before.
I think that I have very split feelings about Josh Henson.
Sure.
I think the best thing about this move is that I no longer have to think, is it an E or an A before I say a name. because there's only one H blank NCON coach on staff now. But with Josh Henson, I think there are very, very legitimate gripes about his recruiting. His not necessarily like quality of recruits, but the recruits that USC has missed out on in the past few years. USC has brought in some promising looking guys, but has missed on the top level elite guys in USC's backyard.
Yeah,
they haven't brought in enough offensive linemen to stack that room a little bit more clearly. They have struggled to make the most of that room from the recruiting perspective. And then on the field, the results have been mixed. But I will give Josh Henson credit because I thought he did an outstanding job with the offensive line that he inherited. I thought that USC's offensive lines the last 2 years have been rough, but did show progress and did seem to settle in and get better as the season went on. And that is usually a sign of good coaching. So I don't think Josh Henson is a bad offensive line coach, but I do think that in the situation that USC is in, what USC needs is somebody who can hit the ball out of the park in terms of recruiting.
Yeah,
that unit with quality and quantity. And my hope is that the change that USC has made here, not that this is essentially a mutual parting of ways. It feels like that the recruiting element of this is where I think USC can upgrade the most.
sure.
And you have to sort of cross your fingers and hope that the ability to at least create a functional offensive line at a certain point,
Right.
It sort of remains, if not gets better.
Yeah, we've talked about Henson and Hansen, and now Henson is taken over by Hansen. USC moves Zach Hansen from
Tight ends.
From tight ends to offensive line coach. He's been the offensive line coach before. I think he was at Tulsa, right?
Yeah, and Kansas State.
But really quick before we talk about this in depth any bit here, no more need to mix up Henson and Hansen, but I just want to let you know, Alicia, it could be worse. When I was a kid, my parents bought a pop-up trailer from a family called the Hinsons. Hinson. And I always remember this because they gave us like these blocks to go with the trailer that you like put next to the wheel to lock it in.
Mm-hmm.
And we called them the Hinson blocks because the word Hinson, with their name was written on the blocks. Like there's the Hinson block. So it could be Hansen, Henson, and Hinson.
I mean,
but it's not. Now it's just Hansen.
Just
Zach
one Hansen. Let's keep it that way.
Indeed. Yeah. In addition to coaching our tight ends and being an outstanding recruiter, Lincoln Riley said Zach Hansen has been instrumental in working with our offensive linemen at USC. He's had extensive experience coaching the offensive line at Tulsa and Kansas State. We're excited to have Zach lead this unit and develop our offensive line. So, a guy with experience, a guy already on staff. This isn't like Lincoln Riley going out and getting the offensive line version of a Matt Entz. But we threw the idea out during the season that like if things really go sideways for Henson, you can just move Hansen over there. I don't know that was something that we talked about as being a permanent solution, but alas, here sort of is.
Yeah, I think this is a perfectly fine solution. I think there were certainly better hires that could have been made. Mm-hmm. I think there were some murmurings about Mizzou's offensive line coach being pursued by USC. Adrian Clem, who should be a familiar name, with USC fans going back way back. He was at UCLA and Oregon.
Show cause.
Had NCAA issues, but has been known as a stellar recruiter. He's currently out of a job. He was most recently with the Patriots, so there was question about maybe Clem is available. There were sort of other. I'm not saying Clem would have been the best option. I think that.
Neil Callaway.
I mean, somebody on Twitter suggested Clay McGuire, and you know what? I would have been. He's at, I think, Texas Tech now. I wouldn't have been opposed to it, but retreads, maybe not the greatest option for USC. But this is perfectly fine. I don't think this is a step back, or likely to be a step back. I do think the recruiting definitely is more impressive from what Hansen has done recruiting the tight end room. I think that he has done a solid job. Coaching up USC's tight ends. I know that people want more production out of USC's tight ends as pass catchers, but I think as blockers, this group of tight ends was about as reliable as a group of tight ends that I've seen at USC in a long, long time. So I think that based on that evidence, I think that there's something to like. There's something to like about this one. With a program right now that feels like the vibes are not good, and outside voices on the offensive side of the ball would probably be welcome. I think that's where it's the disappointment. It's switching things up, changing new ideas, new voices, all of that kind of stuff would be really nice to see on the offensive side after we saw that it did make a difference on the defensive side. So, I have very, very mixed feelings about all of this. There were moves that Riley could have made that would have made me much more excited, but this is not a move that makes me. This is not a move that kills my mood about this program any more than my mood is already at a pretty low point.
Yeah, like you said, I don't think it's a step back. I don't think we know that it's a step forward. So take that for what it is. It's not the Matt Entz hire. It's not the Belk hire from last year in the sense of going out and getting somebody who you could argue is overqualified in that sense. But if you're going to have an internal switcheroo, this is the kind of internal switcheroo that makes sense.
And
like this isn't just nepotism for the sake of nepotism. It doesn't seem,
especially at the offensive line position where continuity does really help, and we have seen what a lack of continuity can do to offensive lines that are otherwise, capable of being better than they've been. So I do like that USC has created a certain amount of continuity despite losing the offensive line coach, to keep that continuity, somebody that all of these guys will already know, who already is very familiar with the blocking scheme and all of that. They should be able to just sort of like go into next season without skipping a beat. The question, as with all things, is I think that Zach Hansen will be a perfectly capable offensive line coach. Is he the level of offensive line coach that like Bill Bedenbaugh is, that can take that unit and bring them up to true contender status? The jury is very much out on that, and I'm not saying that he's not. It's just that he is still a relatively young coach, relatively inexperienced at this position, to be sure. I mean, he showed a lot of promise at Tulsa, but we're still talking about Tulsa. So there's inherent risk here that, all of this kind of stuff has the potential to blow up in Lincoln Riley's face. And so much of it comes down to, do the people that Lincoln Riley puts his faith in ultimately prove that they were worthy of that? And there have been some guys that the answer has been yes, and there's been too many guys that the answer has been no. So, at a certain point, if you are skeptical, as many of the people in our chat are, about this hire, I understand why you would be skeptical. Riley has not earned a lot of trust when it comes to the guys that he's put his faith in. But to be fair, I do want to address LaDavion Spencer in the chat. Bedenbaugh hasn't been good without Riley, and Riley hasn't been good. Hasn't been the best without Bedenbaugh. Yes, I think that's the thing, is that I think Riley's system is actually very offensive line friendly. That's why he has tended to have good rushing attacks.
He objectively has been one of the best head coach or offensive minds for things like opportunity rate. Oklahoma was far and away the best opportunity rate team, which is runs that gain 5 yards, keep you on schedule, right? That when he was at Oklahoma. And SC, at least earlier in the part of this year, I think SC was like in the top 2 or 3 in the country in opportunity rate. So like even at SC has been successful running the ball on the offensive line. So in that sense, I think that, yes, I think there are things, the scheme I think is friendly.
Yes.
But I think you can still be, you can still improve even better on that.
There is a friendly scheme that can have a coach who's just there and doing the baseline. And then you can have a friendly scheme with the coach like Bedenbaugh, who is literally perfect for it. And the two of them combine to create, music with your offensive line. And USC has not really they had it for a while in 2022 before all the injuries hit that line. That line was really, really good. But since losing all of those veterans, there were some 6-year seniors there that were giving USC a boost. This line has been basically in rebuild mode. And I think that the concern at this point is that it's hard to see exactly where that rebuild finishes. Like, you go into this, especially like losing Mason Murphy, you go into this season saying, okay, you got Elijah Page and you've got Alani Noah, and the rest is a big ol' So that's not a position I'm super super thrilled about. So
yeah, I know everyone would love Bill Bedenbaugh, but if I remember right, and I don't think this is blowing up a spot of a source because it's been years removed at this point, but we had been heard that one of the reasons that he didn't come along with Lincoln Riley was because I think his wife is from Oklahoma, right? Like, well,
the family's entrenched in Oklahoma. I totally get not wanting to pick up your family and leave. Some guys, relish the opportunity to start fresh, and some guys are, at Bill Bedenbaugh's age, like it would be extremely disruptive to a family to pick up and leave. And if you don't have to, if you have some job security and familiarity and comfort, then you might just want to stick it out and stay. So, that's, again, these people are people and these factors are factors.
True. And speaking of people, Alicia, Alex Grinch has a new job. Big ups to Alex Grinch. He's now the defensive coordinator at UCF under Scott Frost.
This is legitimately the funniest hire that's ever been made. Scott Frost, the guy who...
Wait, hold on. The staff has Frost and Grinch. Is there going to be an elf? Slay? Is the next one like... Is Darius Slay gonna retire from the NFL and then become, their defensive coordinator, their secondary coach?
I just
maybe.
You know what? Sometimes there are train wrecks that you can see coming, and then it's a surprise when they turn out to not be a massive train wreck and things work out okay. Maybe that's what happens to UCF here. Maybe, but I I am very, very skeptical about what it is that Scott Frost saw that made him think that, yeah, Alex Grinch is going to be the one that comes in and makes things better for me as a head coach, as a man who was successful as a head coach exactly 1 year out of 7. And it got him a major coaching opportunity, and then he flamed out of that. Like, I don't know that Alex Grinch is the guy that I would put my faith in to make sure that I don't, crap the bed again. I would like to point out, though, I'm looking at the coaching staff at UCF. I don't know if these are all going to be on the staff next year, but there's a Kenny Martin.
Ooh.
Kenneth Martin in the chat. Know this guy?
Nice.
Related? Doppelganger, maybe?
Maybe.
So yeah, I
mean, I do think it makes sense. You're in the Big 12. Alex Grinch has won the Big 12 2 out of the 3 years he's coached in the Big 12 as the defensive coordinator. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean,
go for it.
Sure. We talked ourselves into Alex Grinch being a good hire.
Did you hear what he did with Hercules Mataafa, by the way? Have you heard about that?
Yeah.
All right. In other news, recruiting news, SC has landed a commitment from high 4-star cornerback out of Rancho Cucamonga. Go Cougs. I think they're the Cougars. Is that right? I think they're the Cougars. RJ Sermons in the 2026 class, the son of Rodney Sermons. By the way, I just want to say I think the name RJ is great here because, RJ Soward?
Mm-hmm.
Teammate of Rodney Sermons. In 1996, they were on the same team. Sermons, senior leader at that point. Soward, freshman phenom for the Trojans in 96. RJ, you know what RJ's name is?
Rodney?
It's
Jr.?
Rodney. It's Rodney J. One of my favorite things about
J, like the thing
Jay.
Oh, Jay. Oh,
yes,
like
did you not? That's how it's R letter Jay.
No, I knew
Soward.
RJ Soward. I knew it was a J. Are we talking RJ?
I'm saying RJ Soward is Rodney, and then Rodney Sermons has a kid named RJ. Like,
yeah, but RJ
I love
Sermons
that.
is not the same RJ.
No, it's just letters RJ.
Yeah,
but if his middle name is Jay and his first name is Rodney, then he is RJ. Either way, we'll see if he can get 260 yards receiving against UCLA as a true freshman. I don't know. We'll see. Either way, he's a cornerback, high 4-star corner, California kid. Legacy, obviously. We just talked about Rodney Sermons, the hero in the 1996 SC Notre Dame game, the original number 5. He's the one that retired the jersey for. I believe it's not anybody else. Number 33 in the 2026 class, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite. And now SC's 2026 class is 7 commits, number 4 in the country, including 3 in the top 50. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, it's a long way away. 12 months away from signing day, but
I am certainly not counting chickens before they hatch on their recruiting trail. But to be fair, one of the complaints the USC has had about this staff is not prioritizing local recruiting grounds. And in the class of 2026, they've got 2 of the top corners in the Los Angeles area in R.J. Sermons and Brandon Lockhart. Mm-hmm. They also got Madden Reardon from Sierra Canyon, also another corner. So, this early on, this class so far is much more heavily leaning towards California.
Yeah.
Will that remain the case? Will we be talking about any of these guys actually signing when the year is 2026? We will find out. It's a long way. I certainly don't certainly don't count the chickens.
We will see. We will see how it goes. Last thing to talk about before we get into the transfer portal. Eddie Chaplitsky has won the Ray Guy Award.
Oh my
God.
Let's go.
He did it.
The first ever Ray Guy Award winner for USC, the nation's best punter. Extremely well deserved. You love to see it. He also got Sporting News All-American, so he's we already knew he was
unanimous, whatever it is.
Well, I don't think he's unanimous. I forget what you need to be consensus, but it needs to be a few first teams.
I think it's 3 of the 5.
Yeah,
and all 5 is unanimous. Or
yeah,
something. 4 of the 5 is unanimous. Something.
So
like that.
so he's racking these up. These are all Big Ten.
Either way, he's going to be on the wall.
Either way, he's going to be on the wall. He has a trophy to add to the trophy case, and he is the best thing about this season. And yes, I know what that means, but you know what? He's the best thing about this season.
Yeah, he's your guy, right?
My guy.
Your Ray guy.
My Ray guy.
He's your Ray guy. Yeah. All right, let's get to the transfer portal. SC has, we put together this rundown. 24/7 Sports says SC has 18 guys in the transfer portal. I'm only counting 17. There's like a backup kicker in there.
Yeah.
I'm no offense. I'm not counting. I'm counting the names that have had a factor or been recruited and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So 17. Let me just run down the list really quick, and then we'll go to the new names here. Miller Moss, Jake Jensen, Quentin Joyner, Zachariah Branch, Zion Branch, Deuce Robinson, Kyron Hudson, Kate Eldridge, Kololo Teaga, Mason Murphy, Amos Talalele, Gino Quinones, Bear Alexander, Sam Green, DJ Peavy, Rayshawn Davis, and Dennis Lynch. The new names that are on there, the 5 new ones that we have not talked about since last week: Zachariah and Zion Branch, Kololo Teaga, DJ Peavy, and Rayshawn Davis.
We're
Am I
missing
somebody?
We're missing Elijah Hughes. That's who you're missing.
Okay, so that was a new addition. So that's 18.
That makes it 18.
That's a true 18 then.
18 if you're not counting the walk-on kicker that is in the portal.
Yeah. Kickers are people too.
I know.
I know. All right, let's run down the new list. Zachariah Branch, your thoughts?
Not surprising at all, given the way that this season went for him. He was at his best when he was used as a decoy. He's too talented in theory for that to be his biggest achievement at USC, is being a decoy. The fact is that Zachariah Branch is an elite athlete, but he is not a good wide receiver. He's he doesn't run routes.
He's not consistently been.
He doesn't run routes well enough. He doesn't catch the ball well enough. All of those things. He's just not the finished article. And as I said, I think it was last week, it sucks that we're not going to get to see these sophomore receivers be junior receivers and take that next step up towards turning the flashes into consistency and all of that kind of stuff. But at the same time, like there is a question in my head about whether or not Zachariah Branch is another, Gary Bryant Jr. or who's the running back who went to Arizona State?
Raleek Brown.
Raleek Brown.
He's in the playoff.
Yeah, he's in the playoff. Where their athleticism and their physical sort of talent doesn't quite jive with being the actual 5-star level player that you hoped that they would be. I will be watching Zachariah Branch very, very closely, because I think there's every chance that he goes elsewhere and ends up being another Gary Bryant, which is to say, not a game-changing receiver, but 400 yards ish. Not a total dud, but not exactly a big name. Or there's a chance he lands somewhere where they know how to actually develop a receiver of his type and get him to really focus in on how to actually beat a defender when it's not just beating them by being faster than them.
You know what he reminds me of? It is not the same. It's not a 1-for-1 at all. This person had off the field issues. There's not any sign of that with Zachariah Branch. Great kid by all accounts, all that stuff. But is there not some Jack Jones vibes to this?
Yes.
Strictly in the sense, 5-star talent, a guy who had shown flashes of that 5-star talent, but wildly inconsistent. And you know in your heart of hearts that there's an elite level player in there. There absolutely is. We all know it. We've all seen glimpses of it, but just not enough of a consistent one. And because of that lack of consistency, losing him to the transfer portal doesn't seem like the biggest, most painful loss in the world, in the sense of like, you're remembering all the times where like, yeah, but he wasn't as productive as you wish he could have been. He wasn't as reliable as you wish he could have been. All these things. But also there's that thought in the back of the mind is like, but what if he does go to the other school and then figures it out? But with Jack Jones, it was the interesting thing of like, Jack Jones, depending on the day, is either the best corner or the worst corner you've ever seen in your life, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know that Zachariah Branch is that volatile, but like there is a superstar in there if he can get everything to work. And I hope for his sake that he can go somewhere that gets it all to work. But for SC's sake, like, it's disappointing that they weren't able to either get that out of him or something, you know?
Okay, here's my question. Who was the last wide receiver transfer that left USC and did so well that USC was, that you looked at it and thought, man, USC missed.
I can think of literally one. And it's not a wide receiver, it's a tight end. Caleb Wilson.
Caleb Wilson, yes.
That was a weird situation, think of anybody too. Right. Like he was a walk-on and not being given a scholarship. Like it made sense for him to like that. Yeah. Yeah.
But like I think the most successful receiver who's left USC, gone elsewhere, and had the most level of success is Brew McCoy.
Yeah,
but
I guess
it's not like Brew McCoy is
Bryce Butler. Butler was in the NFL for a long time.
Velus Jones had 800 yards and 7 touchdowns in 2021 with Tennessee. So he's probably...
And Bears fans are not happy with him now. Well, not that matters, but yeah.
Yeah, because like I'm looking at like Brew McCoy's numbers are not...
Kyle Ford did nothing at UCLA.
Brew McCoy is doing exactly what Gary Bryant Jr. did at Oregon. At Oregon, like
so
he's
400-yard guy.
He's decent. He's not a game changer.
Right. If there's going to be a dude that makes you regret it, it's going to be Zachariah Branch. At the same time, like you said, if he's a guy who goes to Texas and catches 12 passes for 200 yards next year, I don't know that would be surprising either.
Yeah, a lot of it depends on where he lands as well, like where he ends up, but. I think that he and Deuce Robinson are going to easily be the most intriguing guys that USC loses this year, and I would peg likely to be the players that when we do the where are they now question, potentially the having the best time of it, but at the same time, like. USC, we might have seen what they're capable of at USC. Like, that's entirely possible.
This is the weird thing, too. There's not a lot of guys who have left SC and had, like, not just at wide receiver, but, like, any of those positions.
Yeah. It actually, and this isn't, like, copium or anything like that. No. It's just, I find it very interesting. The number of guys who have left USC that have felt like big losses that have gone on to do nothing of note. That list is extremely long. You could argue that Jay Toya is the best.
Well, it's Jarvis Jones, but
Well, yes, Jarvis Jones, but I think that's also a different scenario,
different situation. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's.
Yeah, I don't bring it up for copium reasons, but it's just.
This is why I feel very shruggy about most of these things. Just make me shrug because, Jackson Dart by far.
Oh yeah,
and if you're looking here and saying, would USC have rather had Jackson Dart or Caleb Williams? You take the Caleb Williams trade, so it's not the end of the world again.
Yeah, and that's why I think that's why it's easy to overlook that.
Yeah, what USC transfer has been the literal end of the world for USC, and it's probably Jay Toya. Like I think that's the closest you get to USC could have really freaking used Jay Toya.
Right. Yeah. Money in the chat says that he never played it down for SC. It's more so about the idea of he
was on the roster.
It's like what he could have been for this team.
USC has literally been lacking the Jay Toya body type.
Right.
Since Jay Toya left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's been a huge gap on the team. So he didn't do anything for USC, but having him not transfer to UCLA would have been rather helpful to the team.
Maybe he had to go in order to make Danton Lynn get hired.
Yeah.
Yeah. Butterfly effect. It's a thing. All right. Zion Branch, DB, headed wherever. Apparently him and Zachariah are going to be a package deal. Makes sense. But I think that one is one that, is a bummer for SC because obviously a lot of potential there at safety. We know that SC is losing Keely Arnold. Zachariah Branch would have potentially been able to had a starting spot penciled in for him for next season.
Yeah, I think so. This is the one that I think that very much will come down to, does USC land a starting safety that makes you forget that Zion Branch isn't there? Because there's every chance that USC doesn't get that guy, and then we're spending all next season talking about how, man, it would have been really nice to have Zion Branch. Mm-hmm. I still would love to know what the deal with Christian Pierce is, because the talk around Christian Pierce when he was a freshman was really, really positive, and he's sort of, I don't know if he's been injured or whatever, he's just not been a factor. Anthony Beavers is still on the team and has had some cameo appearances that were promising, so maybe USC goes all in on him, or Marquise Gallegos, or any one of the guys that are currently on the roster. But right now, I'm looking at my projected depth chart for next year. Right now, I have Kamari Ramsey in a big old blank spot at safety because I do not know who is actually in line to start next to Kamari Ramsey. Mm-hmm. My suspicion is it will have to be a transfer. Then again, the transfers that USC has been linked to that I can recall are mostly corners. So,
does Xavier Alfred have any more eligibility?
I doubt it, but who knows?
Yeah. So I think that one, I think of all the guys on the defense, I think that's the one that I think hurts the most, strictly because that's a starter. That's a starter that you're losing for next season that you need to replace. On the offensive line, Taaga, young guy, didn't see the field. I don't believe so.
I don't know. I don't know what goes into a freshman transferring. Maybe he was really tied to Josh Henson and knew what was coming. Maybe he doesn't see a path to playing. Maybe he's just unhappy. I don't know. There's little to know there.
Elijah Hughes on the defensive line. This one's a bummer. I think we've seen glimpses of him. He played a lot as a true freshman a year ago. He's been someone who has been getting a lot of action as a young guy. You would have thought that he could have, continued to develop and been a reliable component of the defensive line going forward.
Yeah, this one's a little bit surprising to me. Could be another one where he's not getting the playing time and is just going to go out and kind of like Sam Green and DJ Peavy for that matter. That trio of ends and tackles is very much the. Are we projecting any of them to start this coming year? I don't know. I mean, I like Elijah Hughes, but I would hope that USC isn't needing to rely on Elijah Hughes to start this coming year. And if that's the case, then I could see how he would look at it and say, well, I'm going to go somewhere where I do get playing time or, NIL attention or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Again, this is why I say it's hard to look at the, as money muscling entertainment Fed talk in the chat says, what's the issue with the mass exodus at USC? There is a mass exodus, and there are a lot of guys in here that I would want to stay at USC. I wouldn't want to push most of these guys out. At the same time, I don't think I'm hitting the panic button on any of these guys because I don't think any of these guys at this stage are surefire, difference-making,
here's the problem.
Players. It's just some of them will be guys that USC could have used, and so much of this is now putting pressure on USC to go out and get additional guys out of the portal where you didn't, if you had Elijah Hughes and Sam Green and DJ Peavy, yes, you still need to find starter-level guys in the portal, but now you need to find the starter-level guy in the portal and another depth guy in the portal. So you're just, are you going to upgrade your depth guy in the portal?
That's the issue for me. It's like, yes, I think that you look at the whole list of guys who are transferring from SC, the 18 or the 19, if you want to count everybody. Yes, there's obviously Quentin Joyner, Deuce Robinson, Sam Green, guys that we talked about that you can only imagine getting better and going into their third season and how good they could be and all those kind of things. But there's not a lot of starters there, which I think is maybe it's a little bit of a copium take of it. But the bigger factor is with the transfer portal, so much of it comes back down to, but who are you bringing in to replace? Jackson Dart doesn't hurt SC because you replaced him with Caleb Williams, so who cares, right?
Yeah.
If there are guys that are going to come in and be better than Elijah Hughes, better than Zion Branch, sure. That's then the mass exodus thing isn't a red flag. I think the problem is when we look at, the guys that SC is bringing in so far.
Whoa.
What?
Holy crap. This is big news. Zach Henson confirmed to the media that Emanuel Pregnon is A, playing in the Vegas Bowl, and B, returning for the 2025 season. That answers a huge question for me on the offensive line and makes me feel much, much better about life.
Okay.
Breaking news. That's big news. That's legitimately massive news for USC.
Can I just say, the way that you delivered that, I was thinking it was something else.
Like what?
I don't know. I thought you were going to say.
Did I oversell it? I feel like it's pretty damn big news.
It's big news. Absolutely. It's big news. I think we can hit the.
Oh my God.
And then this. Yeah. We can hit all those things. I'm just saying the way you put it in there. I was thinking that Ashton Genty got given an extra year of eligibility and decided to transfer to SC. You know what I mean?
No, certainly not. But it, I think this is a huge, huge deal for USC's offensive line. Again,
for sure,
every starting offensive lineman that you don't have to go into the portal or sort of cross your fingers and hope that one of the guys that's currently in your program to fill that starting spot, sort of ahead of schedule is huge. And it's not just that. Emanuel Pregnon arguably was USC's best offensive lineman this past year. I think that you have to give a huge nod to Jonah Monheim changing positions, playing center, and the difficulty of doing that. He did a hell of a job there, but you could certainly argue that by the end of the season, Emanuel Pregnon was the best player on that offensive line.
Yeah.
He was getting a lot of NFL sort of chatter. And the reason I responded that way is because I legitimately did not even think that was a possibility.
Yeah.
Didn't think it was even
It's big. Thing. Yeah, it's absolutely big. The other guys that are confirmed to stay at this point, Jaden Mayovic, quarterback. The other Elijah Page on the offensive line. Mekhi Lemon, SC's best receiver for this past season. He's not someone that you can expect to go in the transfer portal now. You can add Emanuel Pregnon. Let's talk about the guys coming in. Again, the transfer portal stuff, if you lose a lot, it can easily be made up by the ones that you add, right? Well, let's talk about the ones that you can add. SC got a commitment from Chasen Johnson from USC. Oh, hold on. No, he's gone. All right.
Chasen Johnson really wanted to play for Alex Grinch.
Well, he went from UCF to SC and then now to SMU. He wanted to play for a playoff team, apparently. Let's talk about the portal commitments that SC has. There's two of them. Corner DJ Harvey from San Jose State. Pretty good. Pretty good season at corner for the Spartans up there. 4 picks, 7 pass breakups, 7 tackles for loss. PFF grade of 90.3. That's pretty good. Coverage of 86.2. Kamari Ramsey led the Trojans with a coverage game of 86. Jalen Smith was a top corner at 81, so even better than that. The best coverage grade came against Stanford while covering Ira Minor, a day 2 NFL draft prospect. This is exactly the kind of corner that you want to plug and play here. The Mekhi Blackman type guy to come in and bolster your secondary at corner.
Yeah, the more I learn about DJ Harvey, the more I love him. I mean, if he plays any role in Kamari Ramsey not going to the NFL, then I already loved him immensely. But the work he did with San Jose State this past year was really, really exceptional. And yes, it was at San Jose State. Yes, it was in a G5. But I made note of the Stanford game because Emanuel is, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but like he's one of the better receivers in this draft class. Mm-hmm. And, DJ Harvey got a interception while covering him and had one of his best coverage games against Stanford. That's a sign that the level is not totally accounting for the work that he did from a quality perspective at San Jose State. Getting DJ Harvey is very helpful to replace someone like Jalen Smith, who would be very difficult to replace, plug and play starter, who is already familiar with Kamari Ramsey. And there is, I think it is underrated in a secondary how much we talk a lot about chemistry on an offensive line. Yeah. And chemistry in a secondary does matter a lot too. You got to have a lot of trust that the guys that you're playing with are doing their job and everybody knows what they're doing. And so for me, that is also a big plus, that familiarity that the two of them already have. So pretty good pickup. Secondary.
DJ Harvey, all second team, all Mountain West second teamer. He had 4 picks last year, which was tied for 4th place in the Mountain West. Only 3 guys had more, and they all had 5, including Robert Rocket Rahimi. Great name. Yes. Another San Jose State guy. The other guy that SC is bringing in, we know that nothing makes more sense at SC. Talk about tailback U. No, SC is transfer tailback U, of course. Look at this year. Woody Marks. Before then, you had Austin Jones, Marshawn Lloyd,
Troy Dye,
Travis Dye, who I always forget Travis Dye's name. And then you had Ingram before then.
Yeah, Keontae Ingram.
Yeah, Keontae Ingram. The new guy on the block, running back out of New Mexico. From Iowa State by way of New Mexico. Eli Sanders, 1,000 yards for the Lobos this season, 9 touchdowns. 7.23 yards a pop. But Alicia, this is an interesting one because I got a text from one of my good friends saying, "Really, New Mexico?" There were chats in the chat earlier today, earlier in the pod about New Mexico and scoffing at the idea of New Mexico. I'm just gonna throw this out there. Eli Sanders, in the month of November, 607 rushing yards, averaged 9.63 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns, averaged 151.8 yards per game. How does that fare in the Mountain West? In the Mountain West, in the month of November, nobody had more 30-yard carries or 40-yard carries than Eli Sanders. He had more 50-yard carries in the month of November than Ashton Jeanty. In the month of November. Now, if we go the full season, Ashton Jeanty had 17 30-yard carries and Eli Sanders had 9. But month of November, they both had 6. Also, this is insane. Ashton Jeanty had 10 carries of 60 plus. 10?
It's pretty good.
Insane. Eli Sanders had 3 50-yard runs for the Lobos this year. Great November. Got really good as the season went on. Left Iowa State. He was sort of a backup over there and then ended up over at New Mexico. I know New Mexico isn't 1995 Nebraska, right? But I don't think that matters. I don't think he's very productive. And I think that if there's anything we talked about before, if there's anything to give Lincoln Riley the benefit of the doubt with, we said it was quarterbacks. But maybe even more so is transfer running backs, because he's hit on literally everyone that he's brought in.
Yeah. As I said before, I think that this staff and Lincoln Riley specifically have not earned the benefit of the doubt in a lot of different places. I think
Absolutely.
Skepticism is well earned in a lot of different places.
Yes.
Having said that, Tony Jones Jr., the running backs coach, and Lincoln Riley, the Kyle McDonald before as the running backs coach, they have identified the running backs who will do extremely well in their system, and they've done it over and over and over again. So if Eli Sanders is the guy that they have identified as the guy that makes sense for USC, then by all means, I will get behind Eli Sanders. I have no reason to think that Eli Sanders can't do the job that USC wants him to do.
The interesting thing too is I think SC needs 2 of those running backs, because you lose Woody Marks and Quentin Joyner, and so Eli Sanders, if he's one of your 2 backs, I think that is a great starting point. If he's your starter, sure, he's your starter. If he's part of a 2-back rotation, I think that's even better case scenario.
He was part of a 2-back. That's the other thing about his productivity with New Mexico last year. He was sort of equal share of carries with their other running backs. So that's 1,000. That's 1,000 yards in a backfield that had 2 1,000-yard rushers.
Well, you're confusing one of those for Devin Dampier's the quarterback, but yes.
Oh, was that my problem? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But either way,
he wasn't carrying the ball. He wasn't like other people were carrying the ball.
He was carrying the ball 12 times a game. So
yeah.
He did a lot of production with not. He gained a lot of yards without a lot of action in that sense. Find on Natty's in the chat says, okay, now we're getting happy over a running back who played in JV league. Here's the thing. He's a good running back. He's gonna fit in an offense that allows transfer running backs to succeed. Because again, we've talked about the scheme for the running backs, for the running concepts in this offense absolutely work. Now, mind you, is this a transfer that is going to allow SC to improve on where they are right now as a team? No. Because SC had Woody Marks and went 6-6. SC had Marshawn Lloyd and went 7-5. So is the team improving as a whole with another potentially solid transfer running back? No. But also you need another solid transfer running back. So of like you plug one hole here, but obviously, yeah, it's not going to be the thing that rights the ship completely.
Yeah, but also we have so little to be happy about at USC right now. Guys, there is so little for us to say, oh, that's good.
Sure.
So don't poo-poo and scoff over an objectively solid addition in the transfer portal. People are like, oh, USC doesn't have a lot of transfers, doesn't have a lot of commits. Well, they get a commit, and people go, oh, we can't be excited. Come on. The kid did really well at New Mexico. He's coming in a position where USC has hit the ball out of the park every time they've brought in a running back. Be excited for him. Be happy that USC landed a commit. You can either choose to be miserable all the time or take the little nugget of like, hey, that's positive, and enjoy it for the second that you get to taste it.
Plus, SC has had success in bringing over players from little public schools before. I mean, look at Kamari Ramsey last year. So, we'll see what happens.
Well, I'd like to point out Taj Washington coming from, where was he from? Memphis?
Memphis.
Coming from a G5, undersized, nothing spectacular about him, comes to USC and is an absolutely critical player for USC during his tenure. Absolutely more than worthy of his scholarship. This is the 3-star debate all over again. It's not an issue.
Other guy to mention.
One thing I want to add.
Yeah.
Eli Sanders. Because, Travis Dye, no blocky, no rocky, one of my favorite sayings of all time. Pro Football Focus, the pass block grade for Eli Sanders, 73.3 pass block grade. USC didn't have a single player in their offense with a pass blocking grade above 73 this year. Obviously, the offensive linemen are pass blocking on 200, 300 plus snaps, so the sample size is different, but with a decent number of pass blocking snaps, Eli Sanders proved that he could live the no blocky, no rocky adage, and he did a very good job at that.
Yeah.
That's important. One of the my theory with Quentin Joyner is that if he were a better pass blocker, if he were better at everything outside of running the ball, and maybe didn't ask for too much NIL, whatever it is, he'd probably still be at USC. So
let's talk about another guy, corner, Kevin Longstreet, most likely coming over from Texas A&M, the brother of Hassan Longstreet. Played just 5 snaps for the Aggies. Depth guy. It makes your 5-star quarterback more comfortable. Go ahead, do it.
Hey,
what's it hurting?
Yeah, you don't have scholarship limits anymore.
Yeah,
bring the kid in. It's fine.
Good nepotism, right?
Yes.
Good nepotism. All right. But before we get to mailbag stuff, let's just run through some bowl stuff really quick. We're going to preview the Vegas Bowl on Monday on Festivus, special Festivus episode, but we're going to preview the Vegas Bowl, the Trojans, and the Aggies of Texas A&M. But until then, a little bowl prep rundown really quick. SC will be without 6 players who started. Sorry, 5 now. Only 5. Without 5 players who started the game against Notre Dame. Jonah Monheim is an opt-out. Mason Murphy is in the transfer portal. And, by the way, I didn't even mention this. He's transferring to Auburn. Kyron Hudson in the transfer portal, transferring to Penn State. Sam Green in the transfer portal, transferring to Kentucky. And then Jalen Smith at corner is opting out. So those are the 5 guys the SC is going to lose there that are not going to be playing in the Vegas Bowl. Texas A&M will only be without 3 guys in terms of opt-outs. But here's the kicker, Alicia. 3 guys. Those are 3 of their 4 starters on the defensive line. Nick Scorton, Shamar Stewart, and Shamar Turner. And I think it's incredible that Texas A&M had 2 guys named Shamar, and I don't believe they're brothers. Wild.
You know what? The name thing strikes other programs as well. It's not just USC.
Those 3 men, by the way, combined for 25 tackles for loss. Nick Scorton, 14 tackles for loss, led the Aggies, 5 sacks. again, all three of those guys started all 12 games in the regular season for the Aggies. So I think it's going to be interesting that like A&M is going to be having just about a completely backup defensive line, and they're going up against an offensive line from the Trojans that's going to be without Mason Murphy and without Jonah Monheim, but now has Emanuel Pregnon back in the mix. The other transfers that A&M is losing this season, nobody really impactful, to be honest, that was productive. The one guy I think to mention is right guard TJ Shanahan. He started 5 games for the Aggies this year, but he's like the only guy who was consistently sort of in the lineup. Wide receiver Jacob Bostic had 1 catch for 14 yards, and he's transferring. So that's the kind of situation where Texas A&M is. They opened as a 1-point favorite, but it's now up to 3.5. So again, we'll preview more SC and Texas A&M on Monday. Last thing before we get to the mailbag, we totally skipped over the guys who had committed to other schools. Of course, Kyron Hudson to Penn State, Mason Murphy to Auburn, Sam Green to Kentucky, and Miller Moss to Louisville. Over to Louisville. They saw firsthand.
They did. They got
the Miller Moss experience.
They got a good look at Miller Moss, and yeah, they're going all in on the Miller Moss experience, and maybe it'll net them Deuce Robinson or Zachariah Branch. Yeah, we will see.
We will see. Good luck for the Cardinals as they go forward. Let's get to the mailbag, but before we get to the mailbag, I think we gotta, you talk about whether Miller Moss is going to have success in Louisville. Louisville, a place known for big stakes and stuff like that. But honestly, I think it's all about the underdogs, right? Underdog fantasy. Alicia, I'm pumped because this week is the playoff. It's time for the playoff. Oh dear, press the wrong button. Oh dear, here we go. There we go. Underdog fantasy. Let's talk about underdog fantasy. The college football playoff starts this week, and Alicia, I've put together an entry over on Underdog Fantasy where you can put everything together. Over 5 million fans are playing Underdog Fantasy across 33 states, including California. It has all the top leagues, top stars to choose from, including college football. Think about your favorites, your favorite football players, and whether or not they will go over their stat projection, higher or lower. Touchdowns, catches, cook up some entries for a shot to win real cash prizes all football season long. Alicia, these are my picks. This is my entry for Saturday in the college football playoff. Quinn Ewers, I'm going lower on his 264.5 passing yards stat projection. You like that?
Don't hate that.
Don't hate that? Okay. Isaiah Bond, Texas wide receiver. I'm going higher on a stat projection of 18.5 as his longest reception. Speed guy, the burner.
Yeah, I could see that.
Okay. Nico, the quarterback at Tennessee, I'm going higher. His stat projection of 17.5 rushing yards. The dude's been averaging like at least 30 a game.
Yeah. Okay.
I take the higher from that. Feel good about that. Jeremiah Smith at The Ohio State University, I'm taking lower, 72.5 receiving yards. I'm going to go lower. I'm going to be a little bold there. Going to go lower on that projection. And then Tyler Warren, everyone's favorite tight end from from Penn State. Jeez, I can't speak. 71.5 receiving yards. We're going higher on that bad boy. What do you think?
I mean, the Tyler Warren experience was was something from a USC perspective. So sure, I don't blame you for going higher. I am inherently uncomfortable with taking higher on 71 receiving yards for a tight end.
Yeah, but it's Tyler Warren.
It's
Tyler Warren. So if you think your favorite football players will go higher or lower than their stat projections, join us over at Underdog Fantasy. Download the app today and use the code Reign of Troy to get to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown, just select higher or lower on Underdog. Download the app today and use the code RANTOFTROY to get to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Or text NEXT STEP to 53342. And in New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY. Or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. Alicia, did you hear that? You hear that? We got a super chat.
Hey.
From Fighting on MC. Big cheers.
Big cheers.
It's a straight vodka, by the way.
Need it talking about USC football at this point.
Fighting on MC says, appreciate you both. Well, we appreciate you.
Very much so.
Fighting on MC is awesome. Always making over-under picks in our over-under game and joining us here on YouTube. So we appreciate you. I hope you have a fantastic holiday season. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy whatever you celebrate. We're always appreciative of you and of all of our bots. Let's go to the mailbag.
You've got mail.
Start with a email we got from Tony. Michael, Alicia, this is Tony from Denora, PA. I know as fans we don't like NIL or the portal, but we must look how we got to this point. The NCAA and the universities were greedy. For years, they made millions of dollars off these young men and women. I remember people saying that they get a free education, but we know they weren't guaranteed 4 years. Scholarships were year to year. We all know that coaches improved their rosters by telling some players that they had to move on. Also, the value of that scholarship could not compare to what the NCAA and universities made off of them. Year after year, we said we can't compensate these players because they are student athletes. Well, the docket finally came up in court and judges ruled the NCAA and the universities were wrong in how they handled their business, and to make it right, all limits to the athletes must cease. Pure greed has put college sports in this position. Tony from Denora, PA.
100%. I think we are in the position that we're in because for decades, the powers that be in college football were too happy to sit on their butts and rake in billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars with a system that was never equitable for everybody that was involved in it. And we've known this for a long time. And instead of looking ahead and seeing what was going to become inevitable and creating a system where players could get a piece of the pie, but that there would be structure, that things would operate more like, a professional league where there are limitations and there are rules in place that prevent the wild, wild west. Instead of doing that, they sat around, enjoyed the cush system that they had, and then when the chickens came home to roost, they had to scramble around like chickens with their heads cut off to figure out how to fix it. And now we are in the wild, wild west insanity that we are in right now with the portal, with NIL. I mean, I didn't even foresee how crazy this stuff would get, but in hindsight, we all should have seen it. Letting the NIL model be the primary function for paying players instead of just cutting them in on revenue sharing was absolutely insane. Like us thinking that brands and businesses would use NIL in a way that fits within the mold of like capitalism and return on investment and all that kind of stuff was incredibly naive, because the moment they allowed collectives to get involved in this was the moment that everything went to hell and back. Yeah. And all of that lies with the powers that be, who didn't just give up the idea of amateurism and cut the players in ages ago.
Yeah, I think part of it, too, is that the legal fear of wanting to do anything that allows the entire house of cards to implode which is why they had to leave everything unregulated.
Yeah.
And I know, people will talk about the benefits of a free market and all that, but if it's so free and truly the Wild West, this is the prime example of like the haves and the have-nots grow exponentially in different directions. There can be, sort of chaos, and you end up with people who don't know what's going on, what's up and down, and SC's in a spot where it's like, everything, the whole thing is new too. So like, SC's not in a good spot.
You end up in a situation where SC's not in a good spot, in part because SC was the program that, above all other programs this century, got burned the hardest by the amateurism and pay for play, and all, even though it wasn't pay for play, it was all more complicated than that. But like the perception of that burned harder than anybody over that issue this century, and thus when all of this stuff started happening, USC's approach was extremely conservative, was extremely stay on the right side of the law, USC was the law-abiding citizen who didn't recognize early enough that nobody else gave a crap and that they were all running into the wild, wild west, and USC was waiting there at the starting line waiting for somebody to shoot the gun that let everybody go. And by the time USC got started, everybody else was a mile down the road. Like, this, it's just a cluster F of epic proportions, and some programs and people and all that decided to skirt the rules and be more bold and actionable there are being rewarded for that, and the schools that decided to play it safe are being punished for that in the end. And I don't know if that's what the NCAA actually wants to set the standard at, but that's where they're at right now.
Yeah, it's chaos. It's absolutely chaos. It's one of those things where things would have been better if things would have been better if they would have said, okay, we are professional. Let's just do this, do that, create some sort of, salary cap, whatever it is, devise up rules that would provide competitive balance, but also allow teams to be able to spend money, maybe the baseball method of a luxury tax or whatever it is. Those things could have made a situation where the game was more successful. But of course, the problem, like Tony said, is this has been deemed amateur for so long that they were in too deep. They were in too deep, and God forbid, that continues to be a thing that can't go back on. So, all right, let's go to an email we got from Andrew. Andrew, where is he now?
I'm not sure.
He's all over the place.
He was in Portugal for a while.
Is he Portugal?
I thought.
Let's see. I don't know where he is. Either way, Andrew, Andres. For what it's worth, with the transfer portal bringing up a ton of talk about our NIL strategy and investment, it's really not ideal that Lincoln Riley, by his fourth year, will have reported to 3 ADs, 1 interim, and 2 presidents. And it's not just those 2 figures. Each leadership transition brings with it a revolving door of senior VPs at both levels. So regardless of everyone's talent and good intentions to support football, you'd have to be insane to dismiss us being in constant transition mode has impacted important decisions, initiatives, and synergy. I'm not the biggest Folt fan, but I really don't get why we're shopping for a new president yet again, and it makes me nervous. And for some reason, we can't keep our shit together in that regard. Great hires, but no one can stick around for a decade to create some sort of continuity and foundation. I don't know. Seems like an underrated issue at the bottom of all this.
Very important issue. I think that continuity, again, it's not just with the players. Continuity in all areas is is a big factor in success. And part of the problem is that you can't have continuity if the people who are doing the job are bad at it.
Yeah.
But if you find people that do the job that are good at it and keep the continuity, that can go a long way. Having the transitions at athletic director that USC has had over the last 10 years have not been helpful at all. Having the university itself be in a situation where they had to hire Carol Folt in the first place to clean up messes, knowing full well that she was, close to retirement age. I think when she was hired, we'd even heard that this was not a long-term, decade-long presidential term that was being expected. So part of this problem is that from the very, very top, not just the top of the athletic department, but the top of the university, things are and have been a mess. And USC really needs to, identify the people who will lock things in and create that level of stability. I think that Jen Cohen is that person for the athletic department. Everything that I know about her suggests that she was the right hire and that she will be capable of making the right decisions and setting things up for success. But at the same time, she's going to be answering to a president who didn't hire her. Yeah. So this is it's all a mess, and it keeps getting to be a mess so long as you keep having to turn people over, which is exactly why, as much as I am so irritated and frustrated by the Lincoln Riley experience so far, and as worried as I am that we are going into year 4 of Lincoln Riley and feeling this unsettled and this uncertain and this negative, literally the one good thing about the length of the Lincoln Riley contract is that it will force USC to not continue this just sort of turnover of, next coach, next athletic director, next president, all of that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that USC being stuck with Lincoln Riley and not being able to move on from a coach that maybe they need to be able to move on is good. I'm just saying that forcing an institution like USC to really, really look at things and get things right without rushing and being chaotic about it is ultimately, maybe a bit of a silver lining.
I think that, I think it's frustrating from a perspective of SC has done a lot of the better things that they've done versus what they've done before. Hold on, let me explain this in a way that doesn't sound stupid, right? This was a school that hired athletic directors because they had played USC football games in the 70s and were successful. They won a Heisman Trophy. They were college football royalty, and that's why they became all athletic directors, right? And each one of those 3 guys were extremely flawed in their own right? Garrett, Hayden, Swan. All of them flawed. FC finally goes out and hires a guy with athletic director experience in Mike Bone. And he brings up Sosna with him. Sosna's a great right-hand man who does a lot of grassroots work to turn things around. And there are a lot of changes that have been made in the athletic department that is good. A lot of step forward and all that. And yet Mike Bone has to leave under poor circumstances. And so that didn't really work out. Even though Mike Bone went out and hired the best USC coaching hire, the hire itself, I'm not saying the tenure, the hire, in 100 years. Getting Lincoln Riley, the first time SC has hired a coach with a legitimate track record in 100 years. They finally did, they did what you're supposed to do. They didn't just hire a guy who knew the fight song, and yet they don't get anything for it because they went 7-5 last year and 6-6 this year, and they're having the same issues. And I worry that the response to all of this is going to be digging their heels even further as a university into the backward stuff from a decade ago as an overcorrection. And that's an even worse answer to all of this. Because if the answer long term, when there's another AD, is, all right, well, we went with Bone and that didn't work, and who knows what will happen, end up with Jen Cohen, but we need someone with experience. Matt Leinert's the guy. Like, we need to go back to our roots. Like, that's not the answer. And if the answer to, is getting rid of Lincoln Riley in a year or two and turning around and being like, all right, let's go get, let's just make Danton Lynn the guy, or whatever typical SC thing that has been done before, that isn't the answer either. So I think, like, all of these frustrating things with stability and all of that, I don't know where I'm going with this, but like it's frustrating because the university has made strides and is still getting the same result, and it's resulting in this continuous turnover machine, and they just can't get out of their own way in any sort of instance. Even when they make gains, they have to step backwards in some sort of sense, and it's not just the athletic department, it's not just the football team, football program. It's like everything.
This is what happens when you have a deeply deep-seated issues within your institution.
Yeah.
And like we've said, from everything we know, it goes well beyond athletics.
Yeah.
But athletics are a sign of areas of the institution that are not running particularly well. The good news is that you can change things around athletics and get things right if you have the right people, if you're hiring the right people and identifying the right people and then giving them the resources that they need to succeed.
Yeah.
And, I think USC has struggled with the right people part of that, but I think a lot of places, the vast majority of places struggle with hiring. The vast majority of places are firing coaches on a 3 or 4 year cycle. So, you just got to hope that you hit a big one time.
Yeah, John in Oakland says, hi, Alicia and Michael. And is this the collapse of the USC football program under Lincoln Riley just imagined or really happening before our eyes? Is the bar too high for him next season? If he loses to Illinois, Notre Dame, Iowa, Oregon, is 8-4 and no Big Ten championship game or no college football playoff, then what? Fight on, John in Oakland. We talked about it last week with the new schedule. The new schedule is there for SC, even as is, to perform to their metrics, which the metrics say that SC should be a 9-3 team ranked like number 18 in the country. And they have said that for the last 3 seasons, by the way. They've been almost identical to all the last 3 seasons. That's where SC should be. And the schedule is very favorable for SC to get there, even as is. And if they are not, then I don't know that there is improving anything at all.
I think that the momentum around the program right now is not imagined that it is negative. I do think that the panic about the transfer portal right now is I don't want to completely discount losing guys like Quentin Joyner and Zachariah Branch and Deuce Robinson. Like these are hard losses for sure. I do think that the panic around the transfer portal is heavily overblown when you are reacting to the first fraction of the transfer portal process, and we don't have the full picture of what USC's transfer portal looks like relative to, bringing new guys in, replacing players that are leaving, all of those kinds of things. I think that if you look nationally, like I was pointing out the other day, that USC has like 18 guys in the transfer portal. If you look around every conference in the country, there are multiple, the vast majority of programs that have 10 plus in the portal. Quite a few from every conference have closer to 20 in the portal. It's just the portal is like that. The portal, especially for a team that's 6-6, I mean, the portal is going to be an area where people are going to be involved, and what you have to do is turn around and pick things up on the other side, and that's where you judge. You judge the rest of the way. So I would say the panic around that is overblown, but the general gist of the vibes around the program are negative. And for me, Lincoln Riley has 1 year to prove to me personally that he can turn the trajectory back upwards, because my honest belief is that Lincoln Riley is a very good offensive mind. I think Lincoln Riley, I always push back at people who say Lincoln Riley needs to hire an offensive coordinator and give away play calling and all that kind of stuff. Like, no, I want Lincoln Riley calling plays. I want Lincoln Riley involved in the offense as much as possible, because that's what he's best at. Even though I would love for him to run the ball more often, but
sure,
that's what he's best at. My worry with Lincoln Riley is it doesn't feel like he has a very good handle on the program and on the idea of building and winning. And
which I think is the not to cut you off here, because I know people love when I do that, but this is one of the things where people are not happy with his managerial efforts as a CEO, but then want him to bring somebody else in to run the offense. But that just makes him more of a CEO. Yeah. Which is what people are not happy with what he's done. Not
to rehash out this whole concept, but I do not think that you have to, as an offensive minded head coach, I do not think you have to give up play calling in order to become a good head coach. I think that if you can't do both, then my suspicion is that if Lincoln Riley can't do play calling and all the other stuff that he needs to do, and you take away the play calling from him, you aren't going to magically turn him into a better head coach. He either is a good head coach or he isn't. He either is capable of doing this or he isn't. And the play calling is completely besides the point. It's like Clay Helton changing out his offensive coordinators, and it's it doesn't matter because USC is going to be in the position that they're going to be in. So for me, all of those things are sort of putting Band-Aids on a flesh wound. Yeah. So but I'm also, I'm out, but I'm not completely out, because this past season, you are missing the full picture if you do not acknowledge that this 6-6 was extremely close, absurdly close, hilariously close to being 9-3, which would have been a perfectly acceptable rebuild year sort of result for USC. Yeah. And that is, I'm not giving a pass or anything like that, but I do think there is a possibility, there is a chance that USC comes out next year and the things that plagued them this past year offensively get improved simply because their offensive line is better. And there's more, a more dynamic person at quarterback, and the people that USC brings in are the transfers that they bring in are ultimately good additions and all this kind of stuff. Whatever. There is a chance that USC comes out and looks a hell of a lot better next year. And if that happens, then Riley, for me, will have bought himself some time in terms of my evaluation of him. But if USC comes out next year and looks about the same as they were this past year, then that tells us everything.
you're right. It was a 6-6 that very easily could have been a 9-3 because of all the close games and they were one play away and all that stuff. Yes. At the same time,
3-9 too.
It could have been 3. Sure. At the same time, it would be easier to sell that argument if the 6-6 was preceded by 2 10-win seasons or something, and this was truly the outlier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because last year they fell flat on their face too. So yeah. All right. Last 2 questions, really quick. We'll run through these. The one I had. Oh shoot! I scrolled. Where was it? It was from Lamont. It was about whether. Here it goes. Michael Lacey, how does the university paying out settlements for Varsity Blues, Sark, and other scandals factor into the lack of money for NIL and the problems that we have? Okay, this
Completely
is a good question. But it isn't.
Is it though?
It is. Okay. So,
is it though? Because
but here's the thing. It is and it isn't at the same time. That is not the same money. And so this is why it's unrelated. Because the money being paid for that is not NIL money, because NIL money by the NCAA's ruling has to not be from the university itself, right? So it's different money. Having said that, one of the things, if those things didn't happen, the Varsity Blues scandal and the Sark scandal and the shitty sexual assaulting
the gynecologist
didn't
and
happen,
the medical
and the
school
and the
dean
druggy guy didn't. All of that stuff didn't happen. I think you can make and this is where I think it could factor in. I think there would be more confidence in people's ability in the program and the university and all that to give more money in terms of NIL. Does that make sense? So it's a very indirect factor. I don't think it's a huge factor, but I think it's something to keep in mind as an indirect factor. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, that's
because if
that's
people
fair,
felt more confident in USC as an institution, I think people would be more willing to spend money, like boosters and stuff, be more willing to spend more of their money to fix the football issues.
My problem is that you have Alabama's AD coming out with a statement saying that other programs are putting out multi-million-dollar offers to entice Alabama athletes away from Alabama and that they need to fight back and all this kind of stuff. And all we have heard from USC continuously over the last few years is that they have the money, that they are not lacking the money. Mm-hmm. So if USC was lacking the money and was telling us that they're lacking the money and all of that kind of stuff, then I would be more sympathetic to this idea that USC doesn't have the money to be in contention. Now, do they have the Oregon level money, the Ohio State level money?
Yeah.
No, I think that's a perfectly reasonable place to be at. But USC has way, way better than 6-6 money. The NIL deals that USC is handing out, the NIL that USC has to work with is much, much more than what the vast majority of programs out there. USC is a top 25 program at worst in terms of NIL. I would probably wager they're top 15 in terms of NIL.
Sure.
But they're not either investing it properly or they're not, managing it properly.
Wild, probably uneducated take here. If you're Alabama, you have a lot of donors who are fans, who are the type of donors that don't have the money to send over tens of thousands of dollars, but they might drop a 20 in the bucket if it's going to help this theory of saving the 5-star guy. And Oregon has corporate money, right? Mm-hmm. And I think SC has philanthropy money. You know what I mean? Like, not literally, but you know what I mean? Like SC's got a lot of boosters that are in Hollywood and stuff like that, but it's not like there's no appeal to the people who listen to our podcast to send over $20. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think in Alabama, there's a bunch of those people who will listen to a podcast, be irate, listen to a press conference, and be like, "Fine, then I'll put $10 more in this thing because it means more."
But you can't tell me, as Kenny in the chat says, USC has more money than multiple teams in the playoff.
Yes,
you cannot tell me that USC's NIL pool is less than ASU's, SMU's.
SMU's got oil money though.
Well, yeah, but still, Indiana. At the very least,
For sure.
certainly Boise State, but that's a different question. But to me, this is not about how much money. If we were talking about USC being able to go toe to toe with Oregon and Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia, then I would be perfectly open to the conversation about USC's boosters and fans not stepping up enough to give them as much money as they needed. I do not think that is what resulted in 6-6. I do not think that is why over the last, what was it? I looked at them, over the last 19 games, USC has lost 2 more games than they have won. Mm-hmm. Like, that is not because USC is lacking NIL dollars.
And like all but one of those losses
as Dale says, we lost to Maryland.
Yeah, and almost all those losses are losses that came down the final minute that could have been flipped the other way.
Yes.
With the players that SC had.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Again, if USC is lacking talent, then they could not have taken Penn State to overtime. They could not have forced Michigan to have to win at home on a last second touchdown, and they would have not put Notre Dame in the position where they had to have 2 pick sixes in the fourth quarter in order to pull away and win by double digits. Like that, teams that are not talented enough to contend with those playoff level teams don't do that.
No.
USC has plenty of talent. That is not the issue.
I think SC was truly outclassed in terms of talent in one game. That was Michigan.
Yes, and that was strictly on the line. Specific to defensive and offensive lines, which I will give you on defensive line. Yes, way behind on the defensive line.
They were outclassed against Notre Dame in terms of like Notre Dame's just a really damn good team.
Yeah.
But it's not like they didn't belong on the same field.
Yes.
So, all right. Last thing from Dan in Discord. Would you rather live with someone with bad food takes or live with someone who removes something from the microwave before the timer ends but does not clear the timer?
I would rather live with someone who removes something from the microwave before the timer ends but does not clear the timer. And this is why. I live with someone who has bad food takes.
Do you?
Bad food taste.
Mm-hmm.
And you make it very difficult to plan food. To plan
it really easy.
In order to create to conceive of how I am going to feed myself and or feed my husband. Not that we have that kind of conventional relationship, but when I am thinking about food and whether or not we're gonna. When I go shopping and I look and see like, oh, that would be a good dinner. And then I have to go, no, that has onions in it. So no, because Michael won't eat that.
That's right.
I could go out and go, oh, that looks so good. But Michael won't eat that. So I'd be buying it and I'd go to Costco and it's like, if I buy this from Costco sized crap, I'm responsible for eating all of it. And am I going to eat all of it? No. So put it back. Like, it makes it very difficult. To figure out what is going to happen in terms of any given meal, because my wonderful husband, who I love dearly, is a quote unquote super taster.
That's right. Yeah.
Who can't stand the idea of sautéed onions and food touching in anything.
So the other thing I would point out here, yes, I'm absolutely someone who. The microwave cannot go off. I have to stop it before it goes off. If you let the microwave go off, you are a crazy person. You have to stop it. I wish that worked for our toaster, but it doesn't work for the toaster because you can open it because we use a toaster oven and you can open it and it still bings and it's annoying. But I think there's a whole lot of crazy posture in there. If you were left to your own devices, if you were a single cat lady, You'd be having beans and mac and cheese every day.
If I lived alone, which then meant I wouldn't be a cat lady, which then meant that I could go to the Lancaster Animal Shelter and adopt the 13-week-old border collie puppy.
We already
that
have
was
one.
there, and have 2 dogs. If I lived that life instead of having a husband who says, "No, we can't get another dog, Alicia. What are you talking about?" I would eat mac and cheese.
Well, we did get a second. A third dog, Skinny Pete, which we should have brought Skinny Pete.
We should have brought Skinny Pete on the show. Well,
Is Combo over there?
Combos, yeah, Combos.
You showed people Combo.
I've showed people Combo before. Yeah. I got to show them Skinny Pete. But no, I would eat mac and cheese and bean and cheese burritos and quesadillas and chicken nuggets and all of I would not eat extravagant sort of food. I would have simple fare because I don't actually have super expansive exotic food tastes, but that just goes to show how limiting your food taste is.
It isn't limiting. It makes it easy.
No,
it makes it very simple.
No.
Kenny says, "What's the most adventurous food you've eaten recently that you wound up liking?" I don't know, because you made me try something the other day that was so foul and disgusting. I am still revolting over it.
I made you have a taste of baklava.
It was a baklava sundae.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you explained what it was. I'm like, I'm not going to like that. It's going to make me very uncomfortable. I'm not going to like that. And then you like, no, you're gonna try this.
I said, just try it
like,
for
yes,
me.
Mom,
just try it.
You're gonna no. I need you to try this.
You
right
might
now.
like it.
And then you're like, all right, where does the airplane go?
I literally did the airplane thing to him. I got it there, and please, like, just try it. Just taste it. Just taste it a little bit.
It was the worst experience of my life. That nuts should never belong in anyone's mouth. It was. I'm still feeling that texture and that taste, and I need therapy.
For me, the most adventurous food that I've eaten recently is for my best friend's birthday. We went to, actually, I didn't even realize that this was down by USC. The Michelin, there's like a Michelin star.
La Paloma.
What?
Mercado de la Paloma.
At the Mercado del Paloma. What's it called? Whole Box is a fish sort of counter place that has a Michelin star, and my best friend wanted to try it, and so we went. And in honor of her birthday, because she is a very adventurous eater, in honor of her birthday, they had like fish tacos, but with octopus. And so I got the octopus tacos, and they were very good. Yeah, I liked it a lot, actually.
I did not go because...
Michael didn't go because, as I told my family as we were there, is like Michael and I both knew that there would nothing, not even a thing.
I would have eaten the regular fish tacos.
You could have gotten the fish, but
they still put shit on it.
That's the thing. It's not just the fish tacos. They put a lot of stuff on it. It's, fancy. So
we went to this new restaurant the other day that we both liked.
It was very cool. Like, it was
very
a
good.
Sports bar kind of place. Very good. Cool vibes.
They had cheesy tots on their appetizer list. But it was cheesy tots with bacon and jalapeno and truffle and blah, and it's like, you don't have to do all that. Just have the food. You don't have to do, like, I watched this guy on TikTok that his stuff looks incredible, and then inevitably 20 seconds in, and then you get a diced onion, like, no. And I comment every time, you ruined it with onions.
The onions are where the flavor is.
No.
Yeah.
Use onion powder then.
It's not the same. Yeah.
Oscar in the chat says, what's your favorite Mexican food? What are we talking? Like our favorite Mexican food dish?
Bean and cheese burrito. Actually, okay. Yes. Bean and cheese burrito is my favorite Mexican food. But
nachos.
Chile rellenos is probably my favorite Mexican food if it's the chile relleno, like if it's not too spicy and they've done a good job of cleaning out the seeds and the sauce is good and all that kind of stuff. Like chile relleno, awesome. My absolute favorite is the Chillerana burrito from El Chavo in the Valley. It is down on
Riverside.
Is on Riverside, yes. On Riverside, El Chavo, Chillerana burrito.
Riverside and Coldwater?
Yes, that sounds right. Absolutely fire, as Oscar in the chat put the fire emojis. So, yeah, Chillerana burrito.
Justin says, Mike, you have to grow up, dude. Can't eat like an 8-year-old. I don't know who Mike is, by the way. No idea who that person is.
The funny thing, he eats like an 8-year-old, and frankly, I probably eat like a 12-year-old. So, like, it's not
you
like
have
we're...
the same thing. That's the thing that you have no leg to stand on. You will eat mac and cheese every single day.
Yes, but when I go out with friends, I will order the octopus taco.
That's because you are a people pleaser, not because you wanted the octopus taco.
I mean, that's not wrong. That's not wrong, but I am a people pleaser. But I have learned that it isn't what I had to learn that I want you to learn. And you know, the baklava thing was exactly the sort of example of the thing.
Can you promise me never to make me try anything with nuts in it again,
never
please?
with nuts anymore. Never with nuts. Okay, but what I had to learn is that it does not have to be a traumatic experience to taste something that you do not like.
That's fair.
So like for instance,
nuts.
I've gone to like tasting. My brother's a big foodie, so I've gone to like tasting menus with him and everything like that. So I've had to sort of learn that they're going to put a plate in front of you, and it's going to be some sort of weird fish thing, and I don't really like weird fish things, but you're going to try it because it's there. And you're experiencing different kinds of flavors, and you never know what you'll like. And I've had a million things where I've had it, didn't think I was going to like it, and then it was like, oh, this is actually really good. Oh, I like this. I like this. But I also have tried a lot of things that I just flat out don't like. Not for me. I've done oysters. Yuck. Bleh. But I've learned that just because I really don't care for the taste of an oyster doesn't mean that it is going to be a traumatic experience for me. I am able to accept I do not like this. I put it out of my mind and I move on to the next thing.
I watch a lot of TikTok. I have to now because it's going to go away. But I watch a lot of TikTok and I watch a lot of ADHD content. And it's always like, these are the 3 things that if you do this, you have ADHD. I'm like, yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
And it's like, one of them, by the way, for everybody that says I talk over you and I'm a terrible person for doing it, one of the key things, apparently, is with us unofficially diagnosed ADHD people, but absolutely have it, absolutely on the spectrum of some sort, is talking over somebody as a means of excitement / appeasement /
connection like, to show that you're engaged in the conversation.
Yes,
100%. That's what we do. That's probably why I don't notice or care when you allegedly talk over me, because I feel like I'm talking over you all the time because I'm, you know.
Yeah.
So
Lamont says, do you not eat carne asada with carne asada tacos with cilantro and onions? No, cilantro and onions are disgusting. No.
You see, so again, this proves my point, because now I can't think about a dish that is going to have cilantro and onions, which are standard kind of ingredients in a lot of dishes.
Yeah. Alien55 says 99% of TikTok is self-diagnosed ADHD.
I mean, straight up.
It is. And the thing that I find annoying is like, I hate that kind of stuff because I am super skeptical. I'm like, most of these things are just things that like everybody does. But then there will be ones that are like, no, but I like literally do that exact thing.
I don't know if Michael and I have ADHD. I suspect highly that he does. All I know is that we are both neurodivergent of some variety, of some flavor. We are neurodivergent, and that's why we work well together. So,
sure. All right. That'll wrap us up. Fadion Natty says it's pronounced taco. Please pronounce it the Spanish way it's supposed to be. Taco? I said nachos. I like nachos as favorite Mexican dish. Really love nachos. Love carne asada. I love a good quesadilla, of course. I think I make really good quesadillas.
What do you think of chipotle?
Chipotle.
Chipotle.
I like Chipotle. Yeah. Never been to Cava. Heard good things though. Yeah. All right.
Robin Murdy wants to know what we have planned for Christmas. My family, my mom makes tamales. With your family, we're doing. What did we decide we're doing? Like tacos?
I think we're
Pollo asado?
Yeah, we went to KBBQ last year.
Yeah.
And as much as I'd like to do that, it's easier to just stay home. So I think we're going to stay home. And, I'm going to make my world famous beans. You're going to make your world famous tortillas. And I'll probably cook up some carne asada. We'll go from there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's it. Kenny says, enjoy the LA Bowl tonight, everyone. There won't be a single person in LA who's not turning into it. That's right, because it's our bowl. It's the LA Bowl. Do I remember even who's playing in it? No, I don't. I made my bowl pick'ems and I don't even remember. Is it Cal?
Is it Cal? It's UNLV and somebody.
Okay. Max says lengua taco. No, I can't eat something that can lick me back. No. All right. We will.
We gotta go.
We'll be out of there. See ya.
See ya.